Hey everyone, BT here. I really am excited about this Inside the Episode. David schools me so hard on the awareness and especially around the gratitude trap. I get a little vulnerable in this one, and David, as a master, he sets me straight. Let's go check this one out. You're going to love it as much as I did, for sure. Hey everyone, this is BT and welcome to Inside the Episode. Today, David and I are going inside awareness and avoiding the gratitude trap. Love that title, Gratitude Trap.
Good.
It is good.
That's a good one.
And this was a good episode around just true awareness and what that means. You had mentioned early on in the episode, David, that what are your daily mindset practices is a question you get quite often.
Yeah.
You reference gratitude, which we'll loop back to towards the end of this, talking about how several decades ago you realized it was more than just a going through the motions type activity to complete. It really has to be a true internal shift that's made, and that it's a state of mind, that everything around you is something to be grateful for.
Yep.
Can you explain that again to the listeners, because I don't think they can hear it enough, about how you came to that so early on in your growth?
Well,
there's a lot in that question.
Yeah, no, there is. That's where I'm trying to see where to start with it. So, so here's the thing. And it's not just with gratitude. Like, I was trying to do this with changing my self-image and around money and, all different kinds of things, where you would write down statements like positive affirmations, that type of thing. It's basically a statement of what you wanted to be, right? So with gratitude, it's taking things that negatively charge you and then trying to be grateful for them so that you're not negatively charged. That's really the idea that most people approach it from, which is a horrible idea when you start to think about it, because most everybody that does that never is really grateful, or they're pretending, right? So it'd be like, well, I'm grateful for it in the morning, but then, like, let's say you got an argument with somebody, or somebody did something stupid yesterday, and you're like, okay, I'm going to be grateful for this person, be grateful for this scenario, whatever. And then later on in the afternoon, you're still festering about it. Well, you weren't grateful to begin with. You're either grateful or you're not. It's not something that comes and goes, or it shouldn't be. Like, something's really wrong with it if it's something that comes or goes, right? So I remember thinking to myself, and it wasn't about gratitude. It was actually about money consciousness. I was thinking to myself, when do I get to the place where I don't have to think about it anymore? Like, when it becomes a standard way of thinking. And I was reading something, and I don't remember what it was. It might have been The Science of Getting Rich. It might have been that. Because I know in The Science of Getting Rich, in SGR, Waddles talks about the greatest power is the ability to think the way that you want to think in order to be successful. So that you're really directing your thoughts, not your subconscious mind. And I do remember when I read that one time, I was thinking to myself, how great would it be if you could just think these things automatically, like it was the way that you thought. You were just grateful. You were grateful for everything, right? So I remember thinking that, and I was thinking to myself, well, why wouldn't we be? Like, or what would cause us to be grateful? Oh, it's not a practice. It's a change in what you believe. It's literally a change in your perception, right? Because if I'm not grateful for something, what's causing me to not be grateful for it, right? There's some judgment there that's causing me to have whatever reaction I'm having. Like, if you do something and I'm pissed off at you, well, why am I pissed? You did something, good, bad, or indifferent. Why am I pissed? Why am I pissed? It's bothering me in some way. Why is it bothering me? Because I'm seeing it in a way that bothers me. Why am I seeing it in a way that bothers me? If you go down layer after level,
and deeper.
Layer after layer, what you find out is that in some way it makes you feel uncertain or unsafe. That's always what it is. Even anger, like anger is a defensive posture because you feel unsafe in the moment. You have to protect something. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It can be good, like it could save your life sometimes. But when I started thinking about this, I was thinking to myself, okay, so if I was to change my mindset where I was thinking this way all the time, what foundational belief or viewpoint would I have to change that would coincide with that? So it would be like my foundational belief would actually be the cause of me being grateful. What would that actually be? Or it would be the cause of me having a mindset that manifested money on a regular basis. What would that actually be? So the foundation, when you change the foundation, it becomes the cause of the other thoughts that you're thinking. Right? So there's like a lineage there, or a hierarchy, I should say. And that's what it was. And that's what I started playing around with. So then it was, I want to be able to think successful all the time. Now, I will be the first to tell you, I don't do this. I don't have this mastered in every area of my life. But with most things, like with gratitude, I do. Like even if something pisses me off, I'm still grateful for it. So I think that's also confusing. Like you can have an original emotion. Like I might get perturbed by something, but I'm not grateful for it, because I know that the worst possible thing that could happen in my life is here to move me forward, right? No matter what it is. It might be painful going through it. I might not particularly enjoy it, but I know what the intention of it is. So it allows me to get to gratitude even if I'm in pain. Like if somebody died that I loved, I would be sad, I would be hurt, but I would also be grateful, because I know that the knowing them, the experience with them, the process of the transition, everything is about moving forward.
Yeah, that's a superpower of yours, like the gratitude piece. And you've worked at it, and you've mastered that piece. There's a lot of people, myself included, who struggles a little bit with that, because, off air, we were talking a little bit about my gratitude journal and how I kept this thing for over a year, writing down appreciations and gratitudes, which is a big tenet of your teachings with some of our groups. And I got to a point where I was no longer feeling what I was writing. I was just writing. So the gratitude wasn't there. Like you said, I would be writing it down in the morning, and then literally when I put my pen down, I'd go into anger. I'd go into frustration. I'd go into being miserable to be around. So if you're not feeling gratitude, then you need to dig a little deeper. And I love that you said it comes back down to uncertainty and safety.
Yeah. And if you're not feeling gratitude, don't discount what you are feeling, right?
Yes.
So maybe you're angry. Acknowledge that you're angry. Ask yourself why you're angry. Get to the root of what is actually going on with yourself. Because you don't practice gratitude. You practice changing your perception about something. It's about moving from the lie that's causing you to be in pain to the truth. That's when you can be grateful. Because look, I don't know if you did this, but I sure did when I did like a gratitude journal. You run out of things to be grateful for, so you start writing things down that you should be grateful for. Like I know I should,
100%.
even though I'm pissed this fucker's a dick, right? But I'm grateful. I'm grateful this person, right? But you don't actually feel that way. But you start writing it down. You think you're making progress, but it's you're supposed to be writing out what you are grateful for, not changing what you're not grateful for, or saying that you're grateful when you're not grateful.
Sure. Well, and like you said earlier, it doesn't help to put a mask on it. If you're feeling like shit, or if you're feeling ungrateful, say as much. Be honest and upfront about it. Be vulnerable in that moment, rather than saying, "Oh, I'm perfectly grateful. I'm grateful for this, that, or the other," when you're writing it down when you're not. So.
Right.
I love that you give us permission to be able to say that you're ungrateful about something, because, to me, when I think of writing down what I'm not grateful for, even though it's the truth, I'm ashamed. Like shame comes up for some reason, and I need to dig a little deeper for that.
Yeah, the other thing is this. You can be grateful for a lot of things, but something's really bothering you. And that is superseding your gratitude in the moment. To just throw that off and act like you're grateful when you're seething underneath is not healthy. You've got to get to the root of what's going on. Because like I said, underneath all of it is changing your perception about what's causing the problem to begin with.
Absolutely. And this is a perfect segue into comparison and judgment. You said in the episode those are two of the most dangerous pitfalls that people have to contend with when you're building a successful mindset. So with regards to comparison and judgment, what steps need to happen to overcome participating in those sort of toxic thoughts?
Let's look at comparison for a second,
Sure.
right?
This is going to be really helpful for me.
Like keeping up with the Joneses, right?
100%.
So, like, we've known about this forever, this whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses. Why if the neighbor gets something nicer than you have, why does that threaten us, right? Like, what is it really threatening? So if you really start to think about it, it's threatening some sense of I'm not enough. it's not so much about wanting the next car or the next iPod or whatever the hell people are trying to go after these days, right? iPod, I'm dating myself.
Bentleys,
right?
maybe.
Bentley, yeah.
I know.
It is, at some level, I don't think I'm enough. And then if you take that, I'm not enough down, I'm not safe. Because if I'm not enough, I'm not safe. So now I feel a compulsive need to either better that person or do the same as, so I don't have that feeling. But that just gets out of hand. Like it never ends, right? It never ends. Or here's the other thing we do. Now this is where we get ourselves into trouble. This is where the judgment goes. If I can't compare, I'm going to judge. So now I'm going to make him wrong. That bastard down the street, like that gas guzzler that fucker bought, he's ruining my carbon footprint. Like, why should we all suffer because this guy went out and bought that car, that truck, or 4 motorcycles, or 6 jet skis, or that boat? Like, and that's what we do. Then we make him wrong. Now I've got something that makes me feel safe because I can stand on my righteousness about the fact that scientifically I'm right, you're wrong, right?
Yeah. This is perfect because I do this. Like I'll be completely transparent.
We've all done it. We've all done it.
I do it now though. Like I do this all the time. I've pinned it down to my dad was this way, right? So he would with using what he had at the time, the best of his ability, he would judge everyone. He was a master judger, never to their face, always around earshot of us.
Yeah.
So I took that on. So I really want to be happy for people. I know that deep down somewhere, I really want to be happy for them, but my initial reaction, I default to, who the fuck do you think you are to be able to drive that car, live in that house, or go on that trip? Even though I drive that car, I live in that house, I go on that trip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my head goes to immediately, why can't I be happy for them? And I think about it and I realize that I'm not enough. I'm unworthy. I have these moments where I'm like, I'm just not worthy and I'm not feeling it. And it drives me crazy. Of all the toxic behaviors that I've ever had enter into my mind, that is the one that I feel like if I could tap into that a little bit deeper and understand and find a way to default get rid of it, because eventually it fades away, but my default thought is, who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah.
What would you say to someone like me to be able to like move through that a little bit and integrate that true gratitude for something?
Well, so the idea then, because here's the thing, if you thought you were worthy, it really would be a celebration when somebody else did something. Here's the reason why. It'd be like, I feel worthy when somebody else gets something. I also know that I could get that. Like, it's a celebration for both of us. It's a verification that we're all winning, right? Like we're still winning. You know, it's kind of like, it kind of has that aspect to it. So what I would do is I would look and say, what is the root of this not being enough? Because here's the thing, I often question, especially with certain people, when a person really kind of has an idea that there's something going on there, but they're not letting it go, in some way it's keeping them safe, right? So think about you're not enough, right?
Yeah.
If you, because I know you like to be in control.
100%.
But that keeps you safe.
Yes,
That keeps you safe.
Yes, it does.
If you could find a way to be in control with being enough, it would totally change your life.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It would totally
feel
change your
that.
life.
Yeah, I feel
it
that.
It would totally change your life.
Man.
Because right now it's, how do I be safe? If I'm not enough, I can't compete. If I can't compete, then I'm not safe. So I have to make this guy wrong.
Yes.
That's it. I got to make them wrong, because now I don't have to compete, right? I don't have to do the thing that inside I don't feel like I can do. So if you change that, right, then it's like, I can stand with the best of them. And here's the damnedest thing, you do anyway.
Yeah, I know.
You do. It's
I shouldn't say I know, but yes.
I just think it's like some remnants of insecurity that's going on.
100%. No, I love that. I'm going to go back and listen to this over and over and over again for that. No, that's great. I love that. Thank you. In the episode, you use the analogy of the seasons to help explain the cyclical nature of life, and that all life is constantly transforming and evolving, just like the seasons. And understanding that makes all the difference when you're on a personal growth journey, like most of the people listening to this are. And you highlighted in that the urge to think differently. I want you to go back and tell us what that urge was like for you, and how did you satisfy that urge to be, do, or have more?
I was 100% committed to whatever needed to change in order for me to live my purpose, to become successful, to do the things that I wanted to do in life. There was and I've done this teaching on the podcast before. The two main questions you have to answer to be successful. One is, are you able? If you can answer that one, that's yes. But the next one is, are you willing? And are you willing is a very open-ended question, because we really don't know what we're saying I'm willing to or willing to do. But what it indicates is that there's change required. Like anytime you're going to move into being successful, you have to be willing to adapt to the change. And it's not like if you're not willing to be successful, you don't have to adapt to the change. You do, it's just probably more miserable in most cases. But you get to blame somebody else, so that's not a big deal.
Easy way out.
But that was the idea. The idea was, what needs to change in order for me to do this? And I was doing these practices. Like I've talked about before, I had a pillow speaker. We used to record positive affirmations on a tape loop. And then you'd put a pillow speaker under your speaker at night, and it would go just under your hearing, and like your subconscious would absorb it and stuff like that. And I was thinking to myself, it would be really cool if you didn't have to like make yourself think about this, like if you just automatically thought this. So that's when I started diving into what are the roots of these things, because gratitude is a cause, but it's not the cause. It's also an effect. If I change the cause, gratitude would be the effect. Just like anger is an effect. You made me angry. Well, what caused you to be angry? It's not an effect, or it's not a cause in and of itself, right? So it's like, oh, if I can change that, then the response that I have is totally different. What if I could respond grateful for everything? What if I could respond with a solution to everything? When a bill came, what if I could respond with having the money? Like there's no end to the amount of levels of change that can happen when you get in and you change the foundation.
Yeah, and speaking for me personally, the goal in my personal growth is to have that be the default line of thinking. Like immediately go into a gratitude. I judge myself when it doesn't happen immediately now, but I'll tell you what, I've shortened that refractory period significantly.
Yeah.
It used to destroy my week, my weekend, my entire day if something didn't go my way because of my over-controlled tendencies. Now, it might be 20 minutes. But I still aspire to get to that place of my default thinking, and what you said earlier is going to help me through that. So
yeah. Well, here's the other thing. The fact that you're able to change it says everything, because and you're working on it. You just have the remnants of an emotional pattern that hijacks you for a short period of time.
Correct.
And once that subsides, you're able to move through it. So as long as you continue with it, it'll shorten down to nothing over a period of time.
Yeah, love that. Damn, I'm getting a lesson today. This is great. I sit across from you all the time. I feel like, I'm sitting right here getting everything I need. This is perfect. I don't know if you guys are enjoying it, but I sure am. So in the episode, you also broke down a few steps to create a successful mind, and I'm going to go through those here real quick. Not really question in here until the very end, but bear with me. You talked about one of the steps to creating a successful mind is understanding the reason you're here, understanding the mind is a tool to be utilized, to be sharpened, repeatedly opening up to taking in new information. And in that, you transition to talking about the victim. And we probably can't talk about gratitude without talking about victimhood. The victim believes they don't have the power or agency in their world. They're submissive, subservient to those things in that world. They become stuck in uncertainty. They're rigid. It keeps them closed off. They're spinning their wheels. Awareness is something that couldn't be any further from where they are in that moment. So, and you talked about when you go deeper in that, you see that the most people view safety as the number one value in this life, the safety. Yeah. So talking specifically about the victim, even though people don't want to admit that they are a victim, there's quite a few of us out there. What can a victim do to dig themselves out of that mindset and understand that if I want to have a successful mind, I can't have victimhood be a part of it?
You have to study the truth, and you have to study why you're not a victim. So the problem with it, and it's a process and a journey. There's no question about it. When a person is raised as a victim, they have so much reference of why they're a victim. They're told by their parents and society that they are where they are because of this, these people, that government, this policy, that environment, and they believe it, right? So you get this information prior to 7. There's no rationalization in the creating of that belief. It's like this is a Coke bottle, right? The only reason I know it is because somebody told me. I never challenged. This might not be a Coke bottle, and I don't even know it, right? So
Sure.
the idea is that we heard those things, but we created the context for it later, right? It's like every item that we learned as a child, it was just cause and effect. This is a spoon, and they would hold up a spoon. This is a tray, and they would hold up a tray. This is the color green, and they hold up the color green. So we hear the word, and we associate it to the object, right? We hear our position in life and associate it to whatever is causing us to be in that position. You can succeed because of this, or you can't succeed because of this. Now I have that in my mind. As I grow up and my conscious starts to develop, now I create the context and the understanding for the representation that I have. Oh, because these people are this, and this, that's why they tell me I can't succeed. Oh, I see that. Look at how they're behaving. Look at what they're doing. And then we do that, and we create just mountains of reference in our mind to make it the truth. So we have to take a step back and actually begin to understand at a completely different level the cause and effect of almost everything in our life if we're gonna rewire it. And listen, there's no shortcut to this. It takes study, it takes time, it takes diligence, and you have to ask yourself, what is the alternative? Where is being a victim going? There was this old saying. Proctor used to start off a seminar, or somewhere in the seminar, he would say, if the whole world needs to go to a psychiatrist for me to get better, right? In other words, everybody else is fucked up, but not me, right? Where does that end up? You ain't never going to change.
Right.
Right? So there's an acceptance that has to happen. And that means that we let go of our anger, our judgment, our extreme need to be right, possibly the need not to be wrong, which is different, and a real desire to see improvement in our life. And then you also have to let go of judgment of being a pussy, right? Because there's people that are like, well, if you do that, you're just a pussy.
Sure.
You're not standing up for yourself. It has nothing to do with that. It's about how do I empower myself in order to create the life that I want and not have it imposed on me by other people's crazy-ass beliefs about the world.
Yeah, and I know that there's a lot of people who want to take shortcuts in this area, and they want to. Well, I read a book about that. This is how I used when I first started out. Before I met you, when I first met you and started out, I was just going to read books because I didn't want you to do direct work where it could shine a light on me. So I would be really nervous. So I would read a book, and I'm like, oh, I'm really doing it. But even then, just reading a book is not enough. You need to go through a cathartic exercise to go deep into the cells of your being that were stored before the age of 7 and really start to unlock what that is. And awareness is the key in all of that. And I think back to all the times when I said I was reading a book and I was making what I felt was significant change when it was all just in my opinion, it wasn't. I was just kind of covering it up. I was masking it. So when I really the rubber met the road a few, several years back is when I really started to do a deep dive into things. I went into therapy and broke down that stereotype of, oh, real men don't go to therapy, all this bullshit that I'd been told. And I realized in that moment, shit, this stuff is actually working. And I still hold myself to way too high of a standard. I still beat myself up for not being good enough. But then when you say things like, look at the growth you've made, and for people out there, look at the growth you've made, it's significant. Celebrate that.
Yeah.
Celebrate that and realize that you were at a fork in the road. You could have gone a very different direction and you chose not to. Celebrate it and continue to get better tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, it's all about more life. I mean, that's really what we're here for. It's all about more life. I love that. Well,
and that, the other thing, what's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think now more than ever, we live in a world that digs into people's mistakes and amplifies them for fucking ever. If you made a mistake 10 years ago and it was a mistake, they hold you accountable for that mistake as if you did it with intention.
Right.
And it's like, what the hell is that? And I'm talking about little things.
Yeah.
Not like I killed somebody. I mean, that's something that's completely different. I mean, even that has a statute of limitations in some places. We're so obsessed with making other people wrong because we feel so insecure. If you look at society today, there is this underlying idea that people can't be free or successful because other people are preventing it. There's never been a lie bigger than that. Never been a lie bigger. It is absolutely not true. But if you believe it, you will live it as if, everybody is oppressor around you. And it isn't true. It's absolutely not true.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's perfect. This goes into my next question. We can't have a conversation around awareness without bringing in a little bit about what's happening in the world today. I think that's fair. In this episode, you talked about how many people are hearing, Black Lives Matter, and they immediately jump to say, well, all lives matter. And to be frank, I said that at the beginning too when I didn't understand it enough. Like I was just, my default was, well, all lives matter. That's not the point. And I love that you brought that up in this episode. And you related it to more life and how it plays into being a solution moving forward, and that overall acceptance for all of us is what the goal should be.
Yeah.
So what can we do maybe in these final few minutes on this particular Inside the Episode to get people to get out of the emotion of that thing and avoid that dreaded rigidity that seems to come with that BS of, well, all lives matter line, because that's not the point.
Ask yourself, what the fuck are you afraid of? Like when you get that defensive, you're afraid you're going to lose something, or that you're wrong, or that it is shining a light on that you don't think you matter. Right? There's a lot of people running around with a low self-esteem. They don't think they matter. And then when somebody highlights that they matter, it's kind of like I instantly feel like I don't because you didn't recognize me. So now I feel like I don't matter, and I'm going to be defensive because now I don't feel like I matter. It's no context whatsoever with the person that says Black Lives Matter. Absolutely none. It's your own internal process of what you're actually experiencing. But see, when I do that, if I then project it onto a black person, and now I'm not doing my own work. I'm making the person responsible for the way that I feel. And it goes both ways. Sure. It goes both ways. Blacks with whites, whites with blacks. It doesn't stop until we actually take personal responsibility for the way that we feel and realize, oh, that person's not making me feel this way. I'm making me feel this way.
Yes.
Right? Because nobody can make another person feel anything. You are doing an internal process. Either because some people, when they hear Black Lives Matter, they're like, yes, that's great. They're taking a stand, right? Other people are like, my life matters, white lives matters, yellow lives matters. It's like, what? It's like, what are you doing? What is actually going on? It's not what the person is saying. It's our internal process of what we're perceiving. Now, that has nothing to do with the idea of rights. It has to do, because there's a whole argument about that right now, so I don't want to confuse the issue. Or policy change or something like that. It's just the way that you're perceiving something, because otherwise we end up in this attack back and forth. Like, I'm going to attack you, you're going to attack me, I'm going to attack you back, I'm going to attack you back, attack you back. And that's just not, it's craziness. Like, there's no solution that comes out of that.
It's just noise.
It's just total breakdown.
It's just noise. Yeah, breakdown.
Anarchy.
Yeah, it's just crazy. When I think about all that's going on right now and I hear all the noise and there's these people are saying this thing and this person is saying this thing, it just gets so muddled. And at the end of the day, if we would just look inward, look inside. And you said something that really you've said it so many times, it's personal responsibility. If we're able to take responsibility for ourselves and realize that maybe what we're saying is hurtful or maybe what we're doing is not the best, do something to fix it. Instead of pointing, at everybody else around you, point it in yourself. And that's a scary proposition for a lot of people. It is, yeah. But you've got to be able to do that if we're ever going to make real change. And I feel there's a groundswell of real change is going to come out of this. But at the same time, there's always going to be a few idiots that are going to ruin it for the rest of the people. So
the emotion needs to come down. It needs to come way down. Yeah. It's out of hand.
All right. Well, we'll walk off with this. If everything is for more life, then we can be grateful for everything. Those were your words on the podcast, which I
Right.
thought was beautiful. This involves training yourself to see the good. So as we walk off with this episode, what is one shift a person can make today to start seeing the good in all things?
I think that it's sitting down and asking yourselves what are the meanings that you're currently giving to things, because you can't see the good in it if you continue to give it the meaning that's already your internal narrative. That has to change first. But you can't just change it by going, oh, I'm going to make this mean good. Like, you have to understand why you're making it not good to begin with. Why are you making it not good? And really dig out the root of that. Do I not feel safe? Do I not feel secure? How do I feel threatened? Where is that my work? Right? And then you can, when you release that, now I can give it a good meaning, because I have the ability to see something that's more true about this than just what I'm afraid of.
Love it. God, this has been so good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, this is a great episode. I'm so grateful. Thanks for coming inside, David.
You got?
Hey everyone, thanks for coming inside. Wow, my mind is blown. That was so good. And I've got a lot of work to do. And thanks to David, I'm going to get there. I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure and write a comment down below, share it, subscribe, ring the bell, do whatever you can, because David's cranking out some great stuff and you don't want to miss it. We'll see you on the next one.